Now we will move to the next session of panel discussion, experience session, evaluation of digital libraries. This panel discussion will be moderated by Dr. Parthasarathi Mukhopadhyay. He is the head of the Department of Library and Information Science at Kolkata University. And the panelists are Plaban, Bhowmick, whom you have already met several times, and Mary Ochs, huh? And Mary Ochs, and I invite Wyatt. Yeah. So I'd request all of you to take the stage. I'd like to introduce Mary Ochs, who is the director of the Albert Mann Library at Cornell University at Ithaca, New York. Mann Library is noted for its strong collections and services in agriculture, life sciences, and applied social sciences. Mann Library has provided leadership in enhancing access to information in agriculture and life sciences through a number of special digital library initiatives, including USDA Economic Statistics and Management Information System, Core Historical Literature of Agriculture, and as a contributing member of the Biodiversity Heritage Library. Mann Library has also provided leadership for TEAL and Agora, the two programs which provide free or low-cost access to agriculture and life sciences online resources for researchers in eligible low-income countries. I welcome all the panelists, and I would like to hand over the proceedings to the moderator.
Thank you, Professor Vasu. I know that you all are in a hurry to go back your own places, but this is possibly the final technical session we are having. So when you are talking about this particular session theme is DL evaluation, and when you are talking about evaluation in a house full of library professionals, the first thing you all go back to your age-old LIS school days and easily remember the evaluation projects we learned like Kernfield 1, Kernfield 2, SMART, Medlers, etc. So you see here, we started this evaluation business way back in 1957 with Kernfield 1. And there 3-4 beautiful recommendations came that recall and precision are inversely proportional. And in most of the cases, uniterm indexing is actually overperformed other control vocabulary-based systems. So these are some important issues we discovered there. And I have given a chronology of evaluation events occurred in the domain of LIS. But recently we received a lot of modern evaluation projects like TREC, Text Retrieval Conference. A lot of tracks are going on in different domain-specific area. Then we, from India, we are running one evaluation project called FIRE, Forum for Information Retrieval. But when you are talking about digital library evaluation, the landscape is slightly bigger. You please take a note that all of this evaluation project we conducted so far is basically related with the information retrieval evaluation of different library services. But when we consider the evaluation for digital library projects, particularly global giant digital libraries, then one important thing actually created or proposed by Sarcevic way back in 2000, he actually identified 6 common factors for the evaluation of all digital libraries of the world, and I have given in a bubble format. Now, one researcher called Yang Zhang modified that particular model given by Sarcevic way back in 2000. He modified it in 2010 and identified common and globally agreed upon issues under each of this bubble. So this is a brief introduction with the DL evaluation arena. It's a very complex scenario, big landscape. Within half an hour, we cannot actually touch upon all facets of DL evaluation. So first, I will request my esteemed panelist, Mary Ochs to provide some of her insights as director of a digital library project.
I've never been the right height for a microphone at any podium I've ever stood in front of, so I can almost see you. So thank you for inviting me to participate. I've had a wonderful time at this conference. My role on the panel today is to talk about a library director's perspective. And any of you out there who are library directors know that you have to think about the staff and the resources and the energy of your library and where to invest those things and to try to make sure that you invest them well. And deciding which kinds of digital library projects to participate in is sometimes tricky. And I think all of us have gone down a few wrong paths, but I'm going to talk about a few success stories from my library. There we go. So I'm going to use 4 case studies today. The Biodiversity Heritage Library, HathiTrust, the United States Department of Agriculture collaboration we have for their Economics and Statistics report digital library, and then a little bit of an outlier. I just want to talk about this project called Series 2030, where some colleagues of mine have used some machine learning strategies to speed up the project. So how many of you have heard of Biodiversity Heritage Library? A few, okay. So BHL is a collaborative project heavily based in the US with the Smithsonian Institution taking a lead role, but there are also BHL organizations in some other parts of the world, including Europe and China and a few other places. So it's a membership organization with a shared platform. So I had to decide whether I was going to pay the membership fee to join Biodiversity Heritage Library, and it's been a good decision ever since I made that decision. It has a collaborative platform, and it allows us to do cost-efficient digitization. Material goes into the Internet Archive, and then specific metadata allows materials to be included in the BHL collection, and we can be part of that process. We can also create collaborative collections so that libraries across the BHL have content pulled together. So for example, we created a collaborative collection focused on pomology, the study of apples and fruits. And recently in the United States, there's been a renewed interest in producing cider. And the old apple varieties are particularly useful. So here's a case where old material that shows heirloom apple varieties is really important information for today's cider industry. And the other thing we take advantage of with this digital library is their shared social media platforms. So again, they're helping us get the word out about our collections. So a second success story is Cornell is a member of the HathiTrust. How about HathiTrust? How many people have heard of HathiTrust? Okay, that one's a little more widely known. So HathiTrust offers Cornell a chance to archive its digital materials, but because it's a collaborative collection, other people's materials are there also. And interestingly, through the Google Books project and a number of other programs, a lot of Cornell documents were scanned and put into the HathiTrust, but they aren't open for public access because the permissions weren't received when those were scanned. So what we've been able to do is go through and find the Cornell publications, for example, things coming out of our historic publications coming out of our agricultural experiment station. And with that information, we've gone to the dean of our College of Agriculture and Life Sciences, and one signature opened up 1,700 titles, which I don't even remember how many volumes that was. So anyway, through this shared platform, we were able to put a lot of content out for open access. And a number of the other agricultural universities in the United States are doing the same thing, so they've kind of copied our process. And so now a variety of the content from across the U.S. is being opened up. And it gives access both to the kinds of things like the heirloom apples with immediate application and American social history. The third digital library that we participate in is a long-standing collaboration between Cornell University, which is a state agricultural university, and the U.S. Department of Agriculture. We started working with USDA way back in 1992 to put publications up online before Google was ever heard of. And it's been a long-standing collaboration where we do the archiving on behalf of the USDA for these publications. We are using an open source platform, the Hyrax Samvera repository software, and I guess I don't need to tell you what a benefit it is to use an open source platform. My developers at my library can take advantage of the work that's being done all across the world on the Samvera platform. So this last project I want to talk about is called Series 2030, and we have 8 teams working on evidence synthesis reviews, which are focused on the Sustainable Development Goal 2, the Zero Hunger Goal. And they're looking at key issues in smallholder agricultural development and trying to pull together all the literature on certain interventions. And you can imagine that's a huge task, but the folks working on this project have developed some machine learning techniques that are allowing them to refine the searches and evaluate the articles much more quickly than a typical systematic review. So by using that machine learning technology, they've been able to do in 30 days what often takes 6 months. They've looked at over 100,000 articles on these 8 teams, and together they are managing to put together a special issue in a major journal with these systematic reviews. So the machine learning has been really interesting, but from the perspective of the library director, it's been a wonderful opportunity for my librarians to have a key role in being co-authors on a scholarly publication that is going to have a large impact on public policy. So I'll turn back to the slide we saw originally. If you take a look at this, you can see many of the criteria for a successful digital library project are things that I've mentioned, whether it's sustainability or reliability, useful information, some of the other ones that are up there. They really apply across the board. The problem is you can't guarantee that's going to happen when you dive in, so you kind of have to go with your gut sometimes, but making sure that the team you have and the content you have is worth the investment. So with that, I'm going to hand off to my colleagues.
Thank you, Mary. Now, hello. Now I would like to request one of our panelists, Dr. Plaban Bhowmick, to throw some light on technical infrastructure issues.
I'm happy that I have been interested to talk about technology and infrastructure because that is my comfort zone and I don't want to come out of that comfort zone. So I'd like to touch upon 4 points about technology and infrastructure, and 3 points you can find in the list the moderator has said in the technology domain, and 1 that is out of my choice because I think that is another dimension that we need to talk about. That is capturing and analyzing evaluation data. So whenever you're talking about evaluating a library, we need to think about how or what kind of data we'll be capturing while the users are interacting with the system, right? If we think like digital library as a system. So in this case, there are various alternatives that are available. Popular ones maybe the Google Analytics. So you can use Google Analytics to tap in the interactions that the users are doing with the system, in this case the digital library. But if you think about National Digital Library, it is primarily one educational resource portal. So we think about educational services where the students will be browsing through the books, doing many activities that pertains to education. For example, maybe appearing for a test where the student is maybe making a right choice or making a wrong choice. And that will lead us to very useful insights, right? So in that case, we have really adopted a standard way to capture the user interaction data, in this case the learner interaction data, that is the X API or TeamCAN API based system. So, which is basically a standard that will that will allow a system to capture the activities of the student in a very simplified form, like who did what. So for example, a student is taking a test. So student takes a test. So this is very simple to conceptualize, and if we have that kind of data in a very finer or granular level, we can do many things really. And that powers our evaluation engine or the analytics engine. So the entire data that is recorded through our learning record store is fed to one analytics engine that will in turn generate useful insights and statistics, and of course that will be a feedback to the system or the policymakers of the library or the community to modify or modulate the services in different ways. So this is the first dimension I will like to share, and we have implemented some part of it, but we are really struggling with capturing very final level transactions, like a particular book that is being looked up by a particular learner for a certain amount of time, activities like pausing a video, resuming a video lecture, pausing a simulation. So all those sort of granular level activities we need to tap in order to provide very meaningful services. The second dimension that I like to talk about is reliability. Reliability is very important. If your service is not reliable, then users, they are not going to come back. At this point, NDLI is making sure that there are no single point failures. So for every component in the architecture, we make sure that you have got at least one backup, which runs in an automated failover mechanism, if not two. We are using a highly available and resilient to fault solar cloud that consists of around 12 nodes now, but we are planning to increase this in a much larger scale. And that makes it very reliable to access the index. The third point that we are really doing good is minimal downtime while we are doing an index update. So we are always keeping a backup of the index, and we are continuously updating the backup index, and when we see that there is a major release, we can just switch the pointer from the live system to the backup system, and your downtime is really 5 to 10 minutes. But we are facing issues that relates to reliability is the issue of broken link. So as we are connecting to different resources or different sources, it might happen that the sources may having downtime, and then sometimes the links are broken, and that is really frustrating for the users. And NDL should be very proactive to monitor the broken links so that very wise decision can be taken while we are ranking the resources based on the performance of the sources in terms of whether they are broken or not. The third point that I like to highlight is the efficiency. So efficiency wise, we are doing great in the back office job. For example, we have got a very large scale data acquisition system which can crawl data from different places, and it gives you a toolbox to map different components in the HTML page to the different metadata fields, and you can really create maybe very low quality metadata directly from the crawl sources, but that will be fed to another curation cycle where that is managed semi-automatically, where human and the machine curators will be curating the raw data in a very comprehensive semi-automated pipeline. So there are two toolboxes which are really powering our metadata creation or curation engine. The third point that I like to highlight is we are doing decent in terms of search performance. I'll not say we are doing at the scale of Google, but we are doing decent. But we really struggle in the case of queries that are longer in length. And there are many reasons for that. I'll not go to the technicalities. But we are working on research prototypes that will automatically create facets from a longer query and do a faceted search to the system, and you will get the results in a very quick time. And as the index grows, we have seen we are having increased search time. We need to do something about those. So these are kind of negative points I like to highlight about NDLI technical infrastructure in terms of efficiency. The fourth point, the last point I like to highlight is how we are doing on interoperability dimension. For every resource that we add to the repository, we make sure that we have one schema.org mapping for that particular resource. And primarily we are doing that for the resource to be indexed by Google, and that we do with a JSON LD format. And this format is again powered by learning resource metadata initiative fields that are aligned to schema.org. And that will give us a sense of interoperability, but we are really a bit away from becoming truly interoperable. And actually we had a very good and fruitful meeting with Wikimedia Foundation, and we are really happy to come up with some action points that will increase the interoperability dimension of NDLI. The other point that we are doing great is we have got custom APIs that are published for different stakeholders, and depending on the stakeholder, we control the exposing of data depending on the policy that we have got for different stakeholders. But the negative point that we like to highlight in the interoperability standard or interoperability of NDLI is we lack authority control in different fields. That is very much important nowadays, because if we don't have that, we really cannot connect to the outer world like Wikidata or DBpedia kind of sources. So we are really up to it. We are working on it, and I guess we'll be solving this problem pretty sooner. Or yeah, I think these are the 4 points I have.
So thank you, Dr. Plaban. He raised a very important issue that a digital library should not only consider the L2C services, that library to customers or patrons, that it should also consider L2L services, library to library, in terms of API generation, in terms of query forwarding mechanism generation, etc. But as a library professional, all of you know that there is a library trinity. We have document, we have staff, we have users. And possibly the most important stakeholder of any library system, be it a physical library, be it a digital library, important stakeholders are the users. So I request my esteemed panelist, Liam Wyatt, to throw some light on the last part, that is the most important stakeholder, users of DL.
Thank you very much. Yes, I've been asked to speak on behalf of the users, which I am not qualified to represent in any formal capacity. Whereas your institutions, you are representatives in a formal capacity. I do not pretend to speak as if all users of all library services, digital or physical, come through my voice. But the point that struck me from the presentations that preceded me here today is how education and access to digital library services are often seen in the context of formal educational systems. Students of tertiary education universities, or access through a membership of a professional body, or in students in a high school system, or otherwise accessible through a login, through a network, through a paid firewall process. That necessary tension between the commercialized collections, the archiving, the journal repositories, and the access to public education in various countries. From a user perspective, especially from the perspective of Wikimedia, the tension or the distinction between a formal learner and an informal learner is none. I would like to perceive education to be a universal and perpetual activity rather than merely something one does when one has a student card of an institution. So organizations like those I mentioned yesterday, Europeana, DPLA, to some degree I realize NDLI has this tension because of the login requirement being placed upon you, and this is a tension in the organizational design, whereas DPLA, Europeana, Digital New Zealand, Trove, these are deliberately public access institutions and therefore don't include the kinds of content that you can include because of the login. And this is an interesting tension between access and completeness, comprehensiveness. You spoke of comprehensiveness in your talk. If you don't have a login, if you provide complete public access, it can't be complete. But if it's complete, then it can't be public access. Wikimedia has been trying for several years to attempt to bridge this in Wikipedia, a obviously public access service, through a system we call the Wikipedia Library, where individual Wikipedia users, volunteers, who don't necessarily have access to institutional libraries, get a negotiated access because of the power of the brand Wikipedia and the visibility of our product, get special permission to access otherwise closed access repositories for their research to be able to use to improve Wikipedia articles. Primarily in English in terms of the volume of content that is available, but in many other languages as well. From the perspective of the commercial journal repositories, they see this as good marketing, good advertising. A footnote to their repository behind a firewall from Wikipedia makes people want to go to their place and read that content. But most people reading Wikipedia articles click the link and they hit a login screen. This causes a natural ideological tension between our community's desire to provide free access to knowledge and our community's desire to provide high quality knowledge. Much of the high quality knowledge is not available publicly, and that's not necessarily the fault of the author or the Wikipedian writing it. That's just the nature of some knowledge. So I recognize this tension is, I think, probably unavoidable, at least in the contemporary commercial climate of educational resources, and I applaud more attempts to open access educational resources, OER, and open access publications, gold and green access journals, to try and undermine the rapaciousness of journal organizations who charge fees to publish within and then charge fees to publish to get out. This is not an educational resource, this is mafia. So I note that the University of California system has recently refused to pay the mafia, and the more organizations with power who can stand up to the mafia, the less power that the central authority has, and the little guys, the small institutions, the ones that aren't massively supported by large, rich countries, can hopefully ride that wave too. We know of Sci-Hub, the Napster of science journal articles. More power to them. And within Wikimedia, a very assiduously careful with copyright organization, I should add, where we don't publish anything that is in copyright. We just don't touch it. We delete it if it gets added. Although we like more open access content. We do have a project called WikiCite to try and collect in a bibliographic metadata format, not the content, but the bibliographic metadata about the content. In Wikidata, the set of bibliographic metadata records that are available. The scope could creep to something quite enormous, but at least for the moment we are speaking about bibliographic metadata records which are referenced in Wikipedia and therefore probably are useful because someone has referenced them in Wikipedia. It's a good measure of value, not the only measure, but one. And journal articles, recent journal articles with good digitized bibliographic metadata, ISSN and standardized systems, digital object identifier. This, again, is not the complete set of publications, but an easy set to utilize. By trying to combine the bibliographic metadata of that material and the links back to where it comes from and can be found in closed and open access sources, and putting them within the corpus of Wikidata, we are hoping to provide deeper, wider, broader access and connectivity between material. Even if you can't read it, you can see who has cited whom, who has retracted, who has published errata. Generally, errata and retractions are never connected in metadata to the work that was originally published. So you lose this is where the anti-vax movement comes and says, oh look, there's a journal article that says the vaccination science is bad. And because that journal article is never connected to the large collection of retractions and rejections of this article. Connecting that metadata web together is just as important, but very important in providing the web of knowledge, the root architecture underneath the forest of individual journals and knowledge at the top. This is where we hope Wikidata can be useful to users of the research, academic and general interest public, even without necessarily having access to the full text content of this material. So hopefully that's a different spin on the idea of what a digital library can achieve.
So now the house is open for discussion. Any one of you can share your views on different facets of digital library evaluation. We, on behalf of the panel, welcome all of your suggestions and comments.
Thanks. I'll broaden the topic a little bit and bring in something that Liam said yesterday, and hopefully it'll be within the scope. This is the tension between Wikipedia being democratic and open and being available to everyone to edit versus the issue that we have with respect to authenticity of information and people just making up facts, which in case with respect to the the issue of fake news didn't start today. It started possibly as early as the Gutenberg Press or even before, wherever we started publishing things. And people would publish all sorts of newspapers with really palpably false news and put it under other people's doors. Today, if somebody does that, we just throw it in the recycle bin And we have these centers of trust, so let's say in the US, New York Times, Washington Post, or whatever, the traditional newspapers. We do give them a power that they could censor things that they don't like, and they sometimes follow things and quote what the government line is with respect to the Iraq War and so on and so forth. So it's not perfect. But the other side, which is fully democratic news, where everybody writes whatever they want and we just see whoever is the majority, or at least put both opinions, and some of which is factually wrong, is also not the solution. And perhaps there is some, both should coexist and link to each other or something, and people should choose to get to the truth of things. Comments on that?
Role of a library and the role of Wikipedia is not to provide the truth. It is to provide access to information and to help guide you to knowledge where you can interpret the information and find guides, experts, education, formal education or informal education. But it is not the purpose of an encyclopedia to pretend to be the font of the answer. And besides, the answer changes over time. The interpretation of historical events adjusts as time goes on and new interpretations arise. Wikipedia as a publication does not pretend to present the truth. I phrase it as we outsource the truth to reliable sources. And what constitutes a reliable source differs on the nature of the subject. A reliable source for an article about the Olympics will be a different kind of publication than a reliable source about genetic engineering. And that's okay. But it is not correct to say that this is a reliable source in all circumstances, that it represents the truth and shall be trusted, and this shall not. It's about interpreting knowledge. That is humanities. That is the nature of interrogating information. The difference is, have you heard the phrase, those who like politics or the law should not see either being made? The idea is a website or a thing that looks pretty on the front, behind the scenes is really not a pretty activity. Writing an encyclopedia or writing any academic literature review or journal article might result in a pretty publication that looks very neat and official, but behind the scenes that represents a lot of arguing and a lot of dispute about how to best represent this knowledge. This always happens behind the scenes. At least in the context of Wikipedia, we have these fights in public, and we have them in an archivable, visible, and comparable way. The Baghdad Museum published a copy of the talk page, the discussion page of the article, the Wikipedia article, Iraq War. Not because the article itself is good, I think it's pretty good and very extensive, but they published the talk page debate as a PDF archive, as a representation of how knowledge and facts and history is written in real time, as a source in its own right, as a publication, in their words, as a representation, a primary source of the clash of civilizations in action. This is not Wikipedia or any publication saying we are the truth. This is up for the reader using the access to their experts and knowledge and conversation to interrogate sources, and that's where libraries come in. Not just to collect the best book or the true book, but to provide access to knowledge.
One really important role for us in academic libraries today and school libraries is training our students how to evaluate what they're reading. And it's a tough skill to learn, and we used to have to teach students how to find information, and now I think we are teaching them how to filter the fire hose that's coming at them. So anyway, I think that's an important job for us.
I think we are in a trust-based society. So if you take a journal article and someone who is writing a journal, we expect that the author has got the ethics to write the right thing. And of course, it is also the responsibility of the reader to inspect it through the lenses of criticism so that anything false that is being represented in the paper or the communication can be identified. So we all going with a trust. That's my take.
Being the profession in this profession as a librarian, this is our duty to provide right kind of information to the right person at the right time. So we as a custodian of knowledge, we have to provide them the correct information. Like sir, you just said, we have to find out through the different sources which are the authentic sources. This is our job basically, to provide correct information to the researcher, to the users of the library. Thank you.
We have all taught to provide selective dissemination of information, SDI. Now it is SDI which is in fact a source of false news or fake news. Because in SDI what we try to see is, we try to see what a user wants. And then as feedback we see what are the contents or what are the keywords that the user reuses. Now that leads to the content suppliers or the so-called discovery services that we have now, providing the same kind of information again and again. Now, one of the panelists said that it is not the job of the library to provide you correct information. We only have to provide you information. The fact is that in SDI, we are making judgments and we are making value judgments. And these value judgments lead to making us live in an echo chamber, where we hear what we want to hear and we don't hear what we don't want to hear. So that is something on which I would like your comments, any one of you.
Okay, so your question is that basically that whether librarians are in a position for any kind of value judgment on a given piece of information or not. And you said that we are doing it for the last several years on the top of SDI services, selective dissemination of information, that we take a user profile on one hand, their area of interest, then we match the document profile and give information to the. But the question was not that. Question was that what Professor Mitra actually raised, that we are living in a post-truth era. This particular era may be termed as post-truth era. You simply do not know what is the truth. So how a librarian can help in that post-truth era is not that simple to answer. I don't think presently we have any answer or any clue to know that how librarian can help in this users in this post-truth era. We know certain kind of mechanism to go to the source of the document, to check it, to validate it, but we are not subject experts. We are only the source expert. We can lead our user to that particular source, but the ultimate judgment and value should come from the user point of view.
I should add in terms of it is, when I say it's not the job of a library to provide the correct information, I don't mean to deliberately provide wrong information. I mean it is the job of the library to keep and retain information which might have changed, or interpretations of knowledge and history which are no longer considered to be valid or accurate or contemporary. These comparisons with previous standards are quite important for historiography. That an Indian library should collect and keep Indian authors' opinions and writings about Indian history, and English authors and writing about Indian history, and Arabic sources about Indian history is important, not just the most recent of these, and not to provide judgment on whether one is true, but to provide academic nuance and context for how knowledge is created and shared. It is the context, not merely which is the best, for the purpose, as you said, the student, for the right purpose at the right time, for their needs.
One other quick comment. We try to put in our libraries all points of view, and I am thinking back to a case where I received a box of material on creationism, which is a very controversial topic in the US and probably everywhere. And we decided to put them in the library, but I was questioned on why are you putting these books in the library if they're not accurate? And the reason was so that people could understand the point of view of a group that may not, most people don't agree with, but you still need to understand the views. So anyway, it was quite controversial, and of course there's all kinds of issues in the US with banned books, and we celebrate Banned Books Week when we encourage everybody to read all the banned books. So it's definitely a difficult topic.
Do you file it as fiction or non-fiction?
Yeah, that's a good question. I've forgotten what we did with it. It was really hard to figure out where to put it in the library.
The purpose of coming here that the knowledge engineering in digital libraries, I wish to share an idea on role of NDLI and SWIM courses for the capacity building of disabled people, children with early intervention learning kits. As Secretary HRD conveyed in his video to connect NDLI with SWIM courses. It is suggested in this regard, activity and training based videos and PPTs may be developed by disability practitioners, international organization, with the collaboration of Rehabilitation Council, Disability Affairs Ministry, Ministry of Women and Child, and may be uploaded on NDLI website. And also for its wide circulation, it should be mandatory to be uploaded on all Disability Institute website and public library websites.
I guess the question is, it's not a question, yeah. Yeah, so the idea is, can we have different disability-related training resources in NDLI so that the different population can be benefited, or that...
And the reason is there is no rehabilitation institute in Delhi, not a single one for the children. Number two, in hospitals, people are deprived of getting all occupational therapies and in early intervention kits, and how they will utilize the infrastructure in higher education if they don't have the capacity building for that use.
Okay, so I'll talk about a recent development that we are kind of undergoing. We are trying to integrate the SIAM courses within NDLI. And there are many courses. For example, we have an expert here who works in disability domain for a long time, and they will be they are going to propose a course on different aspects of disability related training modules in their NPTEL or SIAM course. So I think those are the resources that we are looking forward to, and as soon as they are made available to the SIAM platform, we'll be integrating those in NDLI. Yeah.
May I ask the supplementary question, please? The question that that arose from your answer was that you said that you had a collection which dealt with creationism, and you had a problem where to keep it. Now the question is that in a digital library, where you keep it is immaterial because it disappears. In an analog library, in the libraries that we are used to in India, if you keep it anywhere, it's a possibility that a person browsing through the shelves would discover them and use them in whatever way he or she thinks it proper. But in a digital library, it's a black box. I would never see creationism books if I'm interested in something else, because the system is itself serving me the information, the keywords, and the data that it has my profile, my historical profile on what I have searched for. And it is going to go through that and give me what I have asked for earlier. So that is what I am saying, that is the reason why we have this term echo chamber. That in a digital library, the echo chamber is invisible. It gives us the illusion that we have a wide choice. Actually, it doesn't give us much choice. The question, in fact, the question is...
You internally try to find out the relevant details, relevant documents, and present it to them. So you, the onus on the correct search is on you. Whereas in a physical library, the reader could have searched himself. That's his issue, if I have understood.
No, no, it's not that. What I am trying to say is that in an analog library, in a library composed of books and print publications, we have a browsing facility which is there. In a digital library, the browsing facility is nearly absent because you don't browse through the collection, you browse through certain subject headings. In a library, you go through the collection. While you are passing through the shelves, you are able to see certain topics, you are able to respond to certain areas which you might never have heard of earlier. Now in a digital library, you don't do that. In a digital library, you have certain keywords, you have certain authors, you have certain areas. You look through those areas. And it is those areas which, when you next go visit the digital library again, or you next visit the digital collection again, then it is those areas from which you get a feedback, from which the library itself or the algorithms themselves suggest what is to be read. So these collection about creationism, the librarian could have put it anywhere, and in whatever, as someone commented, did you keep it in fiction, or did you keep it in humbug, or did you keep it in religiosity? Now that kind of thing is immaterial as far as a digital library is concerned, because in a digital library we'll not even know what has been kept there, unless we specifically know that we are searching for it. That is why I said that in a digital library it's much more easier to censor. It gives us an illusion of a censor-free world. Actually, it is much more easier to censor. If you look at the Library Bill of Rights of the American Library Association, it is much more easier today to mask documents which you don't want people to see.
In terms of discovery design of websites, perhaps to address your concern about casual discovery, serendipitous discovery, which is an enjoyable part of physical libraries, seeing what happens to be next to each other on the shelf. Maybe library website design could learn things from website shopping design. People who bought this thing also bought that thing. The ability of the commercial sector to innovate is quite useful as inspiration for potentially the cultural sector for similar reasons. Getting people to look at other content related to what they are currently looking at. But as we learned with the discussion on algorithms, to design that in such a way as it doesn't merely reinforce, as you say, the echo chamber of content that which you already agree about. Nonetheless, we already have a long-standing tradition of understanding the knowledge graph of who cites whom in what content, particularly in science. So discovery layers that allow you to see related materials or cited materials and who cites that and who cited that could be designed into systems more frequently. Secondly, just briefly, I would recommend using things like, not only, but like Wikipedia, which is about trying to connect relevant footnotes together as an educational resource, the discovery layer of contextualization. Not just this is the one thing, but this person said this, and this person said this, and this is the area. If you are an expert in your field of endeavor as a librarian, I encourage you to look at the Wikipedia articles about that field and identify which sources are important to a knowledge of the field which are not yet referenced. Add them. Put them in the external reading or further reading section as a bullet point, and if possible, add them as a footnote to the article. This is the world's most popular method of, most popular discovery layer for educational resources, the footnotes of Wikipedia articles. And it's something that you as a librarian in a particular professional field, I believe you should feel as your professional responsibility to help improve the accessibility of the relevant and correct and nuanced information on that topic area. And Wikipedia is an easy way to do it, globally, in your own language.
I would like to add one comment in Liam's observation, that most of the modern days library automation software and discovery services which integrates your library OPAC collection and your digital collection together, they support you to go by different browsing keys. and they all provide you virtual self-browsing option. So if you on that particular virtual self-browsing option, on the basis of your call number, all related stack book positions will be popping up with their cover page image. That's a easy solution is there. That is called virtual self-browsing. So it may to some extent support the casual browsing, but the physical environment we are getting in a library, that possibly requires virtual reality and many other newer technologies. So I think, any more questions? No? Thank you. So my task is both huge and daunting because you see, within this 15-20 minutes, lot many new ideas actually given by my esteemed panelists, and at the same time, some of the beautiful ideas like role of librarians in a post-truth era. Then Madam said about the services for differently able users. Okay. And public library as a point of presence for NDLI. Lot many new ideas came, so let me summarize, or rather try to summarize this one. What Mary pointed out basically in her views related to DL services, she mainly proposed slogan kind of thing, that is O3 library. A digital library must be based on open source, open standards, and open content. Then artificial intelligence and ML, machine learning, is possibly going to boost the next generation of DL libraries. And third important point she raised, that no digital library can operate in isolation. We need to seek partnerships, and partnerships requires interoperability. So when the term of Plaban came, he raised a few important points like usage of library analytics. One new discipline is coming that is called library analytics. So that library analytics can be utilized to collect usage data and in real-time analysis of usage data and rebuild and reshape and modify the existing services. So that's an interesting idea. In the technological infrastructure, he said a failover mechanism for DL architecture is required to reduce the downtime. And metadata curation and search efficiency and DL on interoperability, including the semantic interoperability. Because when you are mapping two different metadata schema, you need to map semantically. Because Mark 21 100 main entity personal name is equal to dc.creator requires some kind of semantic work on the part of the librarian. So he emphasized that. And he also emphasized that the evaluation of a digital library, big-scale digital library, must not only be evaluated on the basis of L2C services, that is library to client. It must also be evaluated on the basis of L2L services. What a big-scale or giant-scale digital library is providing to its partners in the form of APIs and other query forwarding mechanism, etc. And Liam Wyatt raised actually a number of issues, and it's actually a serendipity for me. So the three important points I want to take from Liam, actually that touched my heart actually, that he said that most of the entire academic domain is characterized by a term called oligopoly. A few major players are actually dominating the market. Say for example, 98% of the research anywhere in the world is supported by the government, and almost 95% of the copyright belongs to only 5 companies in this world. So that's why this kind of movement like guerrilla open access, you all know guerrilla open access manifesto wrote by Aaron Swartz and later on, implemented by Alexander Albuquerque. So that kind of scenario will be popping up in future more and more if DLs are not actually democratizing knowledge in the public domain. So I heartfelt thank to you for that particular purposes. Then he said judicious application of hyperlinks in building the, when you are referring to certain other academic resources, most of the cases we should refer to open access academic resources. So that judicious, building of hyperlinking is important. And WikiSite can be a very useful tool for this purpose for higher education institutes and its users. And importantly, he said that a digital library of academic nature must also include retracted journal databases. So suppose a digital library is giving you a paper which is already available in the retractionwatch.com. That means that journal paper already retracted by someone. So nowadays it is easy. There is a service called retractionwatch.com. So it regularly publishes which particular journal articles are actually retracted from the dataset by the publisher. So that can be integrated into DL of academic nature. So let us conclude with 4 or 5 major points that no DLs can operate in isolation. So thereby interoperability should be the call of the time to integrate different kind of resources. DL should follow user-centric design to support wide access and accessibility, including services for differently able users. Democratization of knowledge is the duty of DL system nowadays. Technical infrastructure must run in fail-safe mode and must be using the O3 model as proposed by Mary. And it's not only L2C services, rather we need to focus on L2L services also. So that is all on behalf of the panel. So thank you very much.
Now I would like to invite Professor Parthasarathi Das, General Co-Chair KEDL 2019, to stir the concluding session.
It's almost good evening. All great happenings do come to an end. So we are also in a couple of minutes about to say goodbye to each other. There's a proceedings to say goodbye. So I would request first our program chair, Professor Plaban Kumar Bhowmick, and actually the other program chairs as well. I can see Paul, all three are there. So please come over to stage, and we'll first have there was a student poster competition. So the program chairs will conduct and give away let us know the poster winners and give away the certificates and plaque to them. And then the program chairs will give us a brief technical roundup of what we did in the last 3 days. Over to the program chair.
So this is just to kind of summarize, I guess, the process for the student posters. A really excellent session, and well done to all our students who presented their posters. So KEDL invited submissions for posters, and the topic was kind of AI and digital libraries. So overall, there were 25 submissions, from which 9 posters were selected. And then in the end, we had 6 students who actually came and presented their posters, as hopefully you saw while we had our kind of refreshments. So the judging panel, there was myself, Partha, and Sebastian Hellman was here as well. And we basically came up with a set of criteria, which we then kind of applied as we went around the posters. So we had 3 kind of main categories. We were considering the content, so the quality of the content, the kind of research design, the research question, its relevance to digital libraries. Then we kind of judged the presentation, so what did the poster look like, how was it presented, and then we also judged the kind of interaction from the student as well. So how did they interact with us, how did they answer the questions, how did they summarise what they were doing. And all the students did really well, and to be honest, it was a very difficult kind of decision for us to kind of come up with our rank list of students, but we did. And I'm very pleased to be able to announce, I'm going to announce that we have a runner-up and we have a winner for our student poster competition. So first of all, I'll announce the runner-up. So the runner-up is R. Janani, which was the collection and integration of reliable data. Not sure if they're here, maybe they're not here. Seems to be absent. Yeah, just to say, we really liked the poster in the sense of it was thinking about, an important topic, issue around kind of trustworthiness, quality, authority, and the student had also kind of, managed to do a certain amount of experimentation, which was great to see. So that was really good. But I'm pleased to announce that the winner for the KDL 2019 student poster competition is P. Rajaswana for the poster entitled Sitter, a light semantic recommendation framework for digital libraries. And I think, yeah, he's here, so would you like to come up and please, we can award you with our prize. We really liked this poster. We thought it was a nice topic, innovative topic. Here's somebody who's an undergraduate, so amazing achievements for somebody so young in his career. So well done. Brilliant piece of work. And before we finish, there's just one honourable mention, actually. Is there a plaque as well? Just one honourable mention, actually. So we found it really hard to do the judging because there were so many good posters. And we just wanted to mention a particular poster that we felt was really, really good. And that was Smart KT. So that was Saranji Majumdar, Smart KT, Smart Knowledge Transfer in Software Repositories using Semantic Search Paradigm. A really cracking piece of work as well. So well done, all our students. Have we got? Srijoni. So Srijoni, if you're here, would you like to come up?
More members of the winning team.
Oh, there seem to be more members of the winning team, I see. So this is Siddhant Mahukar, that's for Sita, Pranali Sahoni, and Janani as well. I think we've already got that one. Yeah. I don't know if they're here. If not, we'll pass them on.
You can collect that for your friend.
Collect it. Great.
Thank you, Paul. So I'll now request Plaban to do a technical roundup of the proceedings.
Well, really, I'll not be going to do a technical roundup. Let me share some of the experiences that we had gone through while we worked on the program. The first, I think the hardest thing was to come up with a program, and more harder was to find program chase. And in this process, we trapped in Paul and Partho. And they have been very generous to support us. And we worked together as a great team. The first thing that we decided, well, we have to have a continuation of what we had in KDL. We should not really have a very disparate or maybe very different program altogether. So the continuation, as I mentioned in my introductory session, that it is like openness is a key to have a better collaboration among the digital libraries. So that's how we came up with the smart and open technologies for digital libraries, and we brainstormed over a few meetings to come up with different topics. Again, finding speakers even more harder, but we did that well in this time because the speakers were far more generous to support us by agreeing to speak here, and really the show has been theirs. They have been really on their top to deliberate on different topics, and I guess the audience, they have been very interacting and engaging, and I can see no session has gone without a question answer, and really we were very apologetic that we had to cut short the question answering session. So a big round of applause for the audience, the participants, and the speakers. Thank you very much. And I hope that we'll be continuing with the same tune, maybe when? 2021. And before that, he has promised that we will be having all the resources for whom we have got consent from the speakers, including the presentation and the video lectures to be uploaded. in our conference website. And of course, we will be receiving one mail that will be containing the URLs of those resources. And I hope those will be useful. Thank you very much. See you in KDL 2021. Thank you.
Thank you. You would like to add anything? Any of the other program chairs? Paul, Partho, please.
Thanks to the General Chair and my esteemed colleagues working in different libraries and departments. Actually, most of the program chair related job sorted by Plaban, honestly. Okay. So here and there we have given a few suggestions and a few Skype meetings, etc. Sometimes I came to IIT Kharagpur for only. Anyway, but what I want to confess honestly, that some of the very important topic we actually missed. Say one of such topics is accessibility. So nowhere we have mentioned anything related to accessibility. That's that actually with that everything will be a total thing. So that's the thing. Thank you very much.
A huge amount in a short amount of time. And I think be able to hold an event like this and celebrate what you've done is fantastic. I think it's brilliant to be sharing knowledge and exchanging, and we can learn so much from you. So thank you very much for inviting me and the other speakers, and thank you very much for all your efforts in organising, and thank you for your support as well, Professor Das.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, program chairs. Before we continue into vote of thanks, I would like to just tell the student contest winners and runner-up and special mention that your certificates do not have signature, as I see. So I'm requesting Mr. Shubhabrato Banerjee to collect and get the signatures done, because Mr. Ezekiel might leave any time and it will be difficult to get the signature. So we proceed. I will now request Dr. Neeraj Chaurasia and Dr. B. Sutradhar, respectively our local hospitality chair and international relations chair and two pillars of libraries of IIT Kharagpur, IIT Delhi and IIT Kharagpur respectively, to come over and offer the vote of thanks. First, Dr. Chaurasia.
Thank you very much, sir, for giving me this difficult opportunity, actually, because this is a difficult job to do the board of things at the end of event, because we are here after 3 days, lot of efforts, lot of discussions, lot of meetings, and finally we are here for the concluding the event. So respected dignitaries on the dais, participants, distinguished delegates, senior professionals, ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening to everyone. I feel honored and privileged to propose vote of thanks on this occasion. I wish to express my profuse thanks to the NDLI for showing interest to hold the KIDL 2019 at IIT Delhi. It is indeed a proud privilege and honored to host KIDL 2019 at IIT Delhi campus. I take this opportunity to congratulate Professor P.P. Chakrabarti, who could not attend this event because of some of the pre-engagements, the PI of the NDLI, Professor P.P. Das, who is here, the joint PI of the NDLI, Professor Dr. B. Sutradhar, the co-PI of NDLI, and the other co-PIs of NDLI and the team NDLI, the organizing secretary, Dr. Nabi Hassan, for organizing the event, this event meticulously. This is the result of long discussions, number of meetings, a lot of deliberations of various stakeholders of KIDL 2019. I place on record our deep sense of gratitude to the patrons of KIDL 2019, first to MHRD for continuous support and providing the funds for this NDLI project. Mr. R. Subramaniam, who is the secretary of MHRD, he is one of the patrons for this event. And also the Dr. P.P. Chakrabarti and our director, Professor Ram Gopal Rao, for all the advice, guidance and support. I offer my wholehearted compliments to our director, Professor V. Ramgopal Rao, for allowing us to hold this symposium and his gracious presence as a chief guest in the inaugural program of KEDL 2019 and his inspiring address. I place on record our deep sense of gratitude to the various chairs, the General Chair, Professor Das, PP Das, who is the joint PI of this project, Mr. Ezekiel Damini, who is the advisor for communication and information at UNESCO, Program Chair, Professor Plaban Kumar Bhowmick, Professor Parthasarathi Mukhopadhyay, Professor Paul Diclo, and also the Publications Chair, Dr. Ramesh Gaur, Jiaul Hakpak, Devarsi Kumar Sanyal for their contribution. I also congratulate Dr. B. Sutradhar as International Relations Chair, Dr. Santanu Ganguly as a Publicity Chair, Technical Partner Licensing, Dr. P.K. Bhattacharya, Mr. Harry, Financial Chair, Mr. Nandagopal Chattopadhyay, Mr. Anirban Sharma from the UNESCO for their continuous support to hold this event at IIT Delhi. I also thank all distinguished delegates, invited guests, distinguished speakers, session chairs, panelists, moderators, and jury members who have accepted our invitation and given generous of their time and conducted the sessions smoothly and initiated the fruitful discussions. I extended my hearty thanks to the members of Advisory Committee, Mrs. Christian McKenzie, the President of IFLA, Professor Kalyan Kumar Sinha Mahapatra, Chairman, Central Library, IIT Kharagpur, Professor S.P. Singh, the Chairman of Advisory Committee for Library at IIT Delhi. We are thankful for their guidance and advice and support. I will be failing in my duty if I do not acknowledge the distinguished participants, student posters completers, and delegates who came from various parts of from the country to attend this conference and making KEDL 2019 a grand success. Thank you all for your active participation and continuous support. I am sure your participation added depth to the content and deliberations. Our profuse thanks to the KDL exhibition partners and license like UNESCO, IIT Kharagpur, TERI, Wikimedia Foundation, Europeana including IIT Delhi. I also like to thanks to KEDL communication partners, Verb, Ananya, Manish, Indranath, Prakash, Debabrita, Mohana, and several other in the team. Also taking care of the photography and videography. A lot of thanks to them because this is very important component of any event. My special thanks to the two MC of the inaugural session, Srejani, who she has wonderfully coordinated the inaugural session and also the one of the session of the musical night yesterday. My sincere thanks to the Terry for the especially to the Pallavi Sukla, Rita Sharma, Ms. Saloni Priya, led by by Mr. P.K. Bhattacharya and Santanu Ganguly. I would like to thank the Terry for helping and managing the sessions in professional manners within the time schedule. So thank you very much, Terry. The contribution of faculty members, officers, and staff members of IIT Delhi, administration and accounts hosting towards the hosting this event deserve a warmest thanks too. I wish to thanks to the computer and the networking team of IIT Delhi, especially Sri K. Narayanan, Sri Gopal Kisan, Mr. Bharat, and team of the Computer Center of IIT Delhi for all the technical support and help. I must place on record the appreciation of support, dedication, teamwork, and the untiring efforts by the team of IIT Delhi Central Library, the officers, staff members, project staff, and interns, and the members of various purchases committees and the KIDL organizing committees for their wonderful support in organizing this event. They all worked smilingly, shoulder to shoulder, to make this program successful. Thanks everyone for valuable help and support. I think a big round of applause to the team IIT Delhi. I will be failing in my duty if I do not acknowledge the efforts of NDLI team, especially these Nandji, then Subibrito, Anando, then Ananda, Ananya Guha, Sweta, Rajiva, Debasis, Bidisa, Anurag, Jiban, and Jayeta. I am really thankful to NDLI team for giving us support to organizing this wonderful event of KEDL in 2019. I take this opportunity to thanks to the SIM Global KEDL event management partner, especially Mr. Prasanta, Mr. Sehgal, Mr. Rajesh, Ms. Razda, and several team members to providing support during this KEDL 2019. Thank you very much, SIM, for helping us. My heartfelt thanks to Mr. Sutradhar, Dr. Sutradhar, and team of musicians for an excellent evening of melody and for entertaining all delegates and the campus community members. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. My special thanks to the KEDL audiovisual partners, Abad Stage Craft, catering partners, Moets, transport partners, LSM Travels, decoration partners, Rejoice, fabrication partners, Expression, for supporting this event in proper manner. Finally, I express thanks to the individuals and institutions whose wholehearted support has made KEDL 2019 a reality. Last but not the least, I would like to express my gratitude to everyone whose names I missed. Please forgive me. I thank all of you whose efforts have made KEDL 2019 a truly grand success. Thank you very much indeed for joining us in this occasion. Thank you very much. See you in 2021. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Neerajji. I'll now request Dr. Sutradhar to offer the vote of thanks to the hosts on behalf of the NDLI project.
Thank you, sir. Good evening. I am very happy to propose a vote of thanks to the host organization. It is IIT Delhi. So I am very much thankful to the director of this institute, Professor V. Ramagopal Rao, and he has spent a very good time with us during the inauguration session, and I am thankful to him to accept our request and allow us to organize this workshop in their premises. So it's a very wonderful thing that he has accepted and given the permission. So we all are thankful to them. My personal thanks to the librarians of IIT Delhi, Dr. Nobi Hassan, Dr. Neeraj Chaurasia. These two persons spend a lot of time to decide a lot of things. It's not a simple thing to organize such a wonderful event. We are away from Delhi. We are staying in Kharagpur. It is a 500 kilometers distance from Kharagpur to Delhi, and it is 1500 kilometers. So remotely, many things we have discussed. Physically, we have come, discussed, and then solved many issues, and that's result that we have organized this workshop nicely. So this is my duty to propose a vote of thanks to each member of Central Library who are directly involved for this event. So I'll just mention their name. Mr. Shankar B. Chauhan, Mr. Vijay Kumar Verma, Miss Benita, Mr. Chandra Pal, Mr. Ashok, Miss Meena, Miss Gunjan, Miss Nisha Kumari, Miss Charu, Miss Ratna Das, Miss Rajeshri, Mr. Dayal, Mr. Brijmohan, Mr. Govind Singh, Mr. Pushkar Singh, Mr. Anil Kumar, Mr. Brijmohan Sharma, Mr. Bhupendra Kumar, Mr. Anand Singh Raut, Mr. Debashis, Miss Manishi Gupta, Mr. Harpit Singh, Mr. Mohan Ajahar, Mr. Akhilesh Miss Anubha Verma, Mr. Satyavir Singh, Mr. Sunil Saini, Mr. Bhavan Singh Raut, Mr. Kuldeep. So 29 people who are working in the Central Library, they all have given support for this conference. So I thanks all of them. It's a wonderful job. And finally, I thanks the whole NDLI teams. They have really spent maximum time. Last, I think 1 week or 2 weeks before this conference, I have seen, because it is my premises in the Central Library, office is there. So everybody is doing excellent job. They are spend a lot more time beyond office hour to make this event grand success. So I thanks all the members of NDL team, and special thanks to Professor P.P. Das. He is a genius. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Shuttradhar. To conclude the concluding event, may I now request my co-chair, Mr. Ezekiel Dlamini, to join me on stage and give his parting thoughts.
Ladies and gentlemen, I didn't expect this opportunity. Thank you, Professor Das. Mine is just to thank you. Thank all of you for coming, for making this occasion another special edition in our series. I think we have had a brilliant experience of sharing ideas, interacting, maybe also coming up with new ideas. And that's the whole purpose of this forum, and I would like to thank all those who have made it possible. Yesterday we had a breakaway session in UNESCO. We also thought that was quite insightful, with some ideas and also some consensus for a way forward. On behalf of UNESCO and on behalf of my director, who couldn't be here because he has traveled, Mr. Eric Folt, I just want to say that UNESCO is committed to this partnership with NDLI and is committed to the KDL process. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ezekiel. So I come to the end, and it really feels satisfying looking back on a similar day on October 27th, 2017, when we concluded in the UNESCO office. We made certain commitments to ourselves, and it does feel great that at least some of them we have been able to achieve in this conference. We have been able to have the first platform for SAARC cooperation in digital heritage. We had discussed that in 2017 conference, so at least we could have the first meeting. We have been able to officially get involved in the rightstatements.org with the release of our Hindi right statements. We had committed that last time. We had committed to the community of libraries professionals that we will try to bring out a manual for rights, copyrights. We do have a public consultation document now, thanks to the legal team, and I will soon circulate the URL. And in 2017, a major observation that was made that all wiki group of efforts were grossly overlooked. Somehow we couldn't manage to connect up, fit all the things, and I'm really happy that in the pre-conference workshop in 2019, the day before, we have had the opportunity to work with Wikimedia Foundation and CIS, and we have agreed to on a MOU to start working in a tripartite manner between NDLI, WMF, and CIS. So I hope by the time, hopefully, we come back in 2021 with able support of UNESCO and meet you in some city in India. Probably we are repeating Delhi too much. Maybe we'll try some other city. And welcome you. Till then, goodbye. Have a safe journey back. And we really appreciate the knowledge support, particularly of every one of you. Thank you very much.